And I'm so excited that you are here. I'm just getting my clicky buttons going as I need to do. Today's topic, one of my favorites, presentations. We're going to get into this. I'm going to show you the pieces you need in your presentation when you're doing a live presentation or a virtual presentation or whatever, however you're going to be doing your presentations. Very, very important that this basic flow is understood, and I cannot wait to get into that. I'm going to get ready to share my screen here and hop right in. All right, so I am ready and fired to go with that. So real quick, I am Jen Springer, and I have been in network marketing since 2001, 22 years, which blows me away. Yeah, I think about that. And like 22 years ago, I was in my 20s, and I just remember thinking this corporate thing, there's got to be more. There has to be more. I can't possibly be doing this until I'm 65. You know, I worked for Nissan. I was in human resources and then in quality engineering. And I just remember walking through the office of Cubeland and seeing all the miserable people and all the miserable people in the plant. And I'd worked for another company, actually, you know, other places as well, but I worked for another big company. And it was the same situation, you know, of misery. And the whole thing is like, how do we get out of this, right? Because no matter where you go, it's the same. Just your employer's name on the check or the people around you are different, but the environment, that corporate toxic restrictive environment is everywhere. And I'm like, I got to get out of here. Like, I can't do this till I'm 65. And I just asked, you know, I'm like, greater powers to be, bring me something. And within a few months, my veterinarians, except horses, they had come for some routine stuff. And then we were walking down the aisle and my vet said, hey, you know, we want to talk to you about going into business with us and partnering with us in business. And I said, ooh, you know, here's a 20-something-year-old, right? And I was like, well, wow, my vets were asking me to go in business with them. So I was like super excited about that. And I went, you know, learned a little bit. And I was like, wow, this is maybe my way out. And it was my way out of corporate because I'd already been like going through, you know, this is the misery and the trap I'll never get out for 40 years. And then this came along within a few months and I was like, oh my gosh, I see a doorway I could get out. And for many of you, that is your situation with your network marketing business. You are looking to get out of a job that maybe you don't like, or maybe it's just restrictive. You've got other things you want to do, like travel or take care of kids, or maybe you have a spouse that wants to come home and you want to bring them home and you need another income. And there's just so many reasons why people do this business. Mine was, I can't see myself doing this till I'm 65 in the corporate world. And within 6 months, I gave my notice and I was able to leave. So I put the hustle, you know, pedal to the floor, and I made a huge mess, like in a good way. And I did many presentations, many presentations. And I could probably open my mouth to this day and my presentation, my live presentation will fall out. Like I could be sleeping and it would come out. I've probably given it thousands of times. And I'm not kidding when I say that. You know, I was doing 2 to 3 live introductory presentations about the company a week. And the thing is, a lot of people don't understand when you are building your business, what does it really take to get into momentum? And you need to absolutely put the pedal down to the floor and go and keep doing it until you get to where you want as fast as you want with the prospecting, leads and sponsoring, you know, and that. And my sweet spot was 2 to 3 live presentations a week. Now, do you have to do it these days live? Not necessarily. You could use leveraged, recordings. You could use a video, static video. You can use like a webinar. You could use Zoom. You could do it live. I mean, you could do one-on-one. You could do 10-on-1. You could do 50-on-1. I mean, we're unlimited, but the presentation psychology is the same no matter what. Okay. And I know a thing or two about presentations because I've given thousands of them. Typically, my live presentation closing rate is 90%. And I've earned lots and lots of money over the years in network marketing. 6 figures residually. I don't think that's too shabby in network marketing. So that maybe you want to take some pen and paper and take some notes and maybe learn a few things on live presentations. I do believe in the power of a live presentation over recordings, but recordings can be used. I just find there's a camaraderie with a live presentation that is not there with a recording, but often we can get people a rebroadcast or a video link that if they couldn't get live, but driving people to a live presentation is always going to create more excitement, camaraderie, and scarcity than just straight up videos all the way and everything pre-recorded. I'm just going to tell you, it's a fact. Your upline of your company might say, you don't need to do any live presentations. That is true, but I'm going to tell you, you get more camaraderie, more urgency, more excitement when you add in the live components. So let's get into that right here. Hopefully you can, well, that one's kind of hard to read, but the other ones I made the presentations, the words a little bit bigger. I'm not going to go full like screen here because I can't with my monitor. So just so you know, it makes this like really weird and messed up. So let's get into some of the components that we need. And, I know I screwed this up because I went and I blew it up. There's 3 master skills that you need to build your business. And I should probably move this up out of the way. Ta-da! We'll put that up there. My video. Okay. So there's 3 master skills in your business. There's prospecting and finding prospects, which without that, you don't have any business. So if you're not bringing in a flow of a few new people a day, or you're not meeting groups of people out and about, or whether it's situational prospecting, or you're going to vendor events, live expos, things like that, you need to get your flow on. Because if you don't have a flow, you don't have anybody to present to. End of story. There's many, many ways. I built through doing vendor events, which are like expos, trade shows, things like that. I would meet one person and I would tap into their networks, hence calling it network marketing. With the online situation we have these days, I run a lot of ads. We've got ads going right now for lead generation. The thing is, if you don't have a flow of prospects, you need one. I am a huge fan, and you probably know, of Facebook ads and social media ads. But if you want to learn about that, I'll put a link above in this training or below, depending if you're watching a rebroadcast. So you can learn about doing ads on Facebook. Any platform, you can do ads, but Facebook is still the best one. And it is the one with the most people on it that you can capture with the data and all that other good stuff. So you've got to have a steady lead flow in which you can bring in your prospects. Without that, this 3 master skills thing, without that, you could be the best presenter in the world. You could be the best launcher in the world, and it still doesn't matter if you don't have leads. Okay. And the second master skill in this industry is your presentation and your enrolling. So that is closing. That's what I mean by that. So presenting and closing. So we're going to talk about that here. And then in our next training, I'm going to talk about closing specifically more in depth, because there's more to say than what I'm going to do here today. The third one is launching and duplicating, which means, and also includes getting your repeat customers to order. So like launching means business builder, getting started and sharing the company and enrolling and duplicating you. But it also means getting your customers, getting them enrolling, and getting your customers purchasing for the long term, because this business is meant for return orders and customers, and then other people in your team finding the same. And if you don't have repeat customers, you got nothing either. So like you could be bringing them in, sponsoring them all day long, getting people started. And if they're falling off the back end, you have nothing. Your efforts are moot, right? So these are the three master skills. The one, finding prospects, again, where you're seeing this is, Likes Leads is my business name, or, this group name and my program's name, because we like to lead generate. Like, I feel like that skill is where people really need the most work, because if you don't have enough prospects, you have nothing. You have nobody even to talk to. The second skill right now, we're going to go into this with presenting, and then launching and duplication. That's a whole nother topic. So the biggest mistakes that presenters make overall, and the next training, I'm going to talk about the closing and how people make specific mistakes in the closing. But in general, there's three big mistakes that I find that presenters make. One is they forget the testimonials. And in the outline I'm going to show you, you need to make sure you line up testimonials into the presentation. It's critically important that you have those lined up ahead of time, which I'm going to talk about later, but you need the testimonials big time. Saying too much. And what I mean by that is that people will present and they go on and on and on and on, and they're not concise in their delivery, and they just give like diarrhea of the mouth when they present. And the thing is, we have to remember that kind of ties even into the third thing, which is too many factoids, which I'll talk about in a second. But put yourself in the prospect's position. They are sitting there, they're brand new, they don't know anything about your company. A lot of times they don't know you, they just met you. They are already in a state of overwhelm. And if we have, too much to say, diarrhea of the mouth, etc., or we give them, facts, which I'm going to get into that in a second, people get really overwhelmed, and then they shut down, and then they will not join your business. But so, saying too much could be the presentation is too long, or you're trying to cram 5,000 things into one presentation that they just got to know this. They got to know this too. They got to know this too. They got to know this too. And really they don't. There's some key things that they do need to know. We're going to get into that. What I mean by too many facts, the third thing is that some people, especially in network marketing companies that have products for health and wellness, especially, there's a lot of science that goes behind that. And usually there's patents and uniqueness and things like that. And people in the main presentation will go down the rabbit hole of showing all the science and the research and the patents and the special galactic super moon juice that's nanoparticles and patented first ever mixture of whatever. And people, they want maybe know a little tiny bit about that, but not a lot. And some presentations get really too heavy in the science part of it. Okay. And trust me, that is cool. I'm that person as well. I love it, but we have to keep it simple and do, for people that really need that in-depth factoid information, we can, they'll ask for it typically after the presentation. And we have to bring them in to simplicity, and I've got a tip for you on that in a second. So remember, when you're presenting, Facts tell, stories sell. So when you present, you can tell it as your own story of discovery and learning about your company and the industry and the solution for whatever problem you're posing to them. And add in your testimonials, add in your own stories, things like that. Very important. You know, people don't care that, you know, this super galactic moon juice is 5% organic aloe and 2%, you know, ashwagandha extract. And, you know what I mean? Like, people don't care. Like, they don't care about the facts that go with that product or service, or even the company. We were, you know, founded in 1993 and we are a debt-free company. And you know what? You can say a lot of that in a matter of one sentence, and let that, you know, information can be, you know, sought out even later in other materials. They are overwhelmed in that presentation. They want to know, there's a couple things. Will this work for me? Can I do this? Is this a scam? Is typically the three dialogues that people are having in their head, is they're answering the questions in their mind from the presentation. So we have to remember that. And those are the things we stay focused on. I also like to talk about that duplication aspect just a little bit, you know, the launching. When I would bring somebody in new into the business and they wanted me, oh my God, I got fuzzies all over my shirt today. They want me to do a presentation for them as a new person builder on my team, which is awesome. And however, I got stuck in the trap many years ago when I first started. I was so excited. I would present for everybody and anybody. I didn't care if they were brand new or in my team for years. And I burned out so bad. I wasn't at the beginning. I did, you know, after about 5 or 6 years in, I figured this out, but I'm sharing this with you because this solved a lot of my problems. I implemented in about 5, 6 years after I started. I wish I had known this at the beginning, is the I do, we do, you do. So with my new people, I do the first presentation for them and I tell them, take notes, watch what I'm doing, what I'm saying, and pull them in for a testimonial to get them started, to get their feet wet. So they have some participation in that first presentation. So, you know, groom them up to do a testimonial. Actually, I should do a training on that, because that is I'm going to make a note, because that's a whole thing in itself. There is the art to the testimonial. Like, you think you just tell your story. It's not. There's actually a way to do it. But having them do the testimonial, getting them in front of the group or whatever is really important. So the I do, you lead it, but then you bring them in for that to get them kind of, you know, kind of going, right? And the second presentation we do is the we do. And I'm very clear with them on this. I tell them this because they always ask, well, how do I do this? Well, I'm going to show you, I'm going to train you. And how I do that is the I do, we do, you do. And so the second one is the we do. The second presentation that we do together, I go through the presentation and I ask them, what aspect do they want to do? What are they comfortable with? And they pick what they want to do. And then we do it together. Like, I'll even stand next to them and, you know, kind of help them. I'm like, don't worry, if you get stuck, I'm right here. You know, we go through it and they know what they need to say, and et cetera. I have them do a little testimonial, et cetera. So we get them going with like support. Okay. So it's a we do. And I'll tell you, many times when you do it this way, by the third presentation, they're like, got it. Like, they don't even need you there. Every now and then they'll say, Jen, I really want you to be there in the third one, just in case I get in trouble or I have questions. But I'll tell you, probably over 50% of the time, more like 75% of the time, they want to just do it on their own. They're like, I got it. I totally know what to do. So this is a great way to set people up for duplication and launching their own stuff. is the I do, we do, you do. Okay. So I just wanted to throw that in here because it's so important. I wish I knew that a long time ago. So some tips to rock out your presentations is keep the presentations 10 to 25 minutes. You know, if you're doing a live presentation, 10, I think, is a little bit on the short end. Half hour or less is the best. Sometimes I would do these introductions like that were really long when I started. I didn't know this, right? I could have done things differently, but I was able to, you know, shorten it up over time and things like that. But especially when you're doing live, you don't want to go on and on and on and on unless you prepare people and they know it's going to be, you know, a period of time. So keep the presentation. Sweet spot is 15 to 25 minutes, especially if you're bringing in at the end any question time or testimonials or things like that. Lots of stories. I already talked about that. Testimonials, which you want to line up your testimonials ahead of time, and you want to coach the people giving a testimonial ahead of time. You don't want to say to your best friend, hey, you want to come give me a testimonial today? And they're like, yeah. And then they get on and they ramble for 20 minutes about their experience. And they will. I've seen it. I've seen it where the presenter can't even get the mic back. Like, nope, I got one more thing to say about my testimonial. I've seen it. So set it up ahead of time, coach them on it, have a cue. Some people have diarrhea of the mouth and you got to sit in the background going like this, like fishing line, like reel it in, you know, like that. Because people get that mic and they get like power struck, you know. So line up your testimonials ahead of time. Like I made a note of that. I think a testimonial training is a really good idea. Give samples at the door with your registration in the registration packet if you're doing live presentations. If you're doing a virtual presentation, you can have the option if you want. It's not necessary, but if your product is experiential, which a lot of you do have those presentations, you might have people pre-register and pay for the registration. I used to charge $10 for my introductory, $5 or $10. I think it started out at $5, and then we were doing so much giveaway and stuff. I charged $10. If you brought a guest, your tuition was free. So because I wanted to cover the materials they were getting in learning, and also if you're doing a virtual presentation, and if you want them to have a packet, you need to cover the postage, or you'll hemorrhage money. And I also find that if people have a little skin in the game, they are more likely to show up and attend. So even if you do a virtual presentation and it's $5, and if they bring a guest and the guest shows up, you give, you know, a credit towards that. It's one thing I would do as well, is that, you know, it's $10 to come, and that covered the cost of materials, supplies, refreshments, etc. But if they got started today in business, then I would give them a $10 credit towards their first order. Okay, there's ways to do that, because a lot of times we'd be renting a room or we'd have refreshments, you know, we would cover that basic cost, but I didn't want people to feel like, what? So I would say, if you got started today, you will credit you that $10 towards your first order, you know, something like that. You figure that out, what works for you, but I just want to share with you what I did. So I encourage you greatly to use materials that your company generates. And we can always create our own PowerPoints, our own things, but when we're doing live presentations, I really encourage people to use company generated materials. So like a catalog, a handout, like a, you know, a lot of times the companies have catalogs, but then they'll have like little mini catalogs that go with it, pamphlets, educational materials, or even a website. Very, very, you know, very obvious. But if you're doing a virtual presentation, why couldn't you use the website? You know, not saying here, log in. You're using like information the company has, the about, the this, the that, your favorite products, how to get started. You can do the presentation that way as well. And again, everybody's got a different company. It's, you know, unique to each person that's listening and watching, and you might have something different. But I used to create my, well, I actually always kind of taught from a pamphlet, but then over time I got really comfortable and I would spew all the information out off the cuff of my mouth, of my top of my head. And because I'd given that presentation thousands of times, I knew it. But the person sitting in the audience saw me give the presentation without any, like, you know, guide to follow. So they're looking, going, oh my gosh, if I do this, I have to memorize this presentation. Does it make sense? Like, they're always looking at what you're doing as if they'll have to do that. Even at a subconscious level, they're thinking that, you know, because they'll come, I would have people on my own team, they'll come, they'll watch, they'll tell you that you're amazing, you're so amazing, you're so smart, la, la, la. And then they'll say, but I can't do what you do. I'm not as smart as you. I don't have your credentials, etc. So if you're up there at the front of the room or on the Zoom or the live or whatever you're doing, and you're presenting as this guru, knowledgeable, blah, 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 people are going to say in their mind, even subconsciously, I can't do what this person is doing. It makes sense. So I resorted to, many years in, using the company catalog as the guide for the live presentation. So I could order that right from the company. They could order it right from the company. And the way that the catalog was laid out was perfect for the presentation. So I would say, great, start on this page, turn to this page here, da, 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 da. You know, and I would pass around samples as I was talking. And, you know, they went home with that catalog, and that worked amazing. Okay, so use a tool that they can easily access. Most companies now have digital materials like PDFs or like electronic catalogs, electronic pamphlets or whatever. Use that. Use it. Use that as your presentation, especially if you're doing it even live. A lot of times in a presentation, you know, if we're doing something one-on-one, we don't have the ability to use a PowerPoint or, you know, a projector. But if you're doing something virtually live, absolutely use those digital materials. Or, you know, if you have the ability to project, if you're doing a live in-person one. So use what is available to you. A, because it saves you time, but B, because that prospect is thinking in their head, I can do this too. Or maybe your new builder is there that they're thinking, I can do this, because you're keeping it simple. All right. And I got to say this here. I don't know if you can see this here at the bottom. Take what you think you should present to the prospect and cut it in half. Like literally, well, I think they need to know this and they need to know this and they need to do that. Cut that in half. You'll still teach them more than they need to know. Because remember, they are they're overwhelmed just walking in the door. So let's talk about the presentation part of this whole thing. The first thing is you've got to open with the problems your prospect is facing. Because people typically are looking for a solution to a problem, and that's why they showed up. They've been interested maybe in what you do, or they, you know, they might want to learn about the company because they have something in their life that they want to solve. If it's the business, it is that, right? You know, you could talk about what's going on in the economy, what's going on in the workforce, retirement, inflation, all this stuff, time restriction, being away from family, you know, that's what is covered from the business aspect. You know, what are the problems that people are facing that's causing them to look for something else, part-time or full-time? If you're presenting on your company's product, you want to talk about the problems that that product solves. So if you're doing a health product, you can talk about the standard American diet. You can talk about people and what's going on in general in the health situation, and how people struggle with their weight or whatever, sleep, or whatever, I mean, you want to talk about in general the problems they're facing, and that again, your solution is your company or your product, but you've got to bring this up at the beginning of the presentation before you even do your own introduction, really, and because you're going to talk about that problem, and then you're going to introduce yourself, well, this is, the reason why I was interested in this company because of, whatever problem you're talking about. And you can say, well, I've been with the company for 5 years and la, 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 la. You could tell your own testimonial. The second thing is you want to bring in some of the mistakes that people are making that's keeping them stuck that your company solves, So what I mean by that is, say, if you're talking about the business opportunity and you're talking about the economy and retirement and all this other stuff, and you can then bring in, and this is not, you don't lament on this for a long time, but you talk about this just a little bit and saying, a lot of people, what they're doing is they actually think that the lottery is their retirement plan. And there is some crazy statistic that's like 50% of the population thinks that the retirement, like that the, what do you call it? The lottery is actually a viable retirement, source. The other thing that people are doing is they're just ignoring the fact that their financial future is coming like a freight train. And every, year that goes by, they keep saying, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And then they get to retirement age and they have nothing. So like I'm saying, this is just an example of like the mistakes. You want to bring in the mistakes that people are making that are trying to solve the main problem that you are talking about for this presentation. So if you're talking about restful sleep and the problems that, sleep causes if people don't do it or they don't have restful sleep, well, what are some of the things that people are doing that are actually not helping them trying to sleep? People are sleeping, they're drinking before they're going to bed, or they just ignore it and say, well, I'm just going to get through my day tired, or, you want to present a little bit of the mistakes they're making. Okay. So that's right after here, you offer the problem. Here you talk about the mistakes that people are making, trying to solve that problem. And then the third thing is, this is the obvious one. The best situation or thing to do to solve those problems and to shortcut not making the mistakes is work with you in the business or the product. That's where you bring in your stuff. So again, to start, you start out with, these are the problems that we're facing. These are the mistakes that people are making. What I discovered and what I found was XYZ company. My sister called me up on the phone one day and said, Jen, you need to look at this. I think I finally found a way that I can stay home with my kids. And I went, oh my gosh, what is that? And I listened to her, and the company name is blah, 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 supergalactic moon juice, nanoparticles. And then you can give a little bit about the company and transition even into the product. If you are, depending if you're doing a business forward or a product forward presentation. If you're doing a business presentation, you want to talk just a little bit about the business, the company itself, and the actual business, and then a little bit about the products. Don't go into the full line of products and everything that they have, and 400 products later, you're like still going on about it. You want to talk about your unique position in the market. You want to talk about anything special, like, we've been around since blah, blah, blah. And, we're based out of yada, yada. And, our products, blah, 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 solve the problem of, and you want to talk about that, it's like kind of a business thing. If it's the product that you're leading forward with, you want to just briefly talk about the company, saying, well, the company that I was introduced to when I was having these huge sleep issues, and I was waking up with black circles under my eyes, and people were wondering why at lunch I'd go to my car every day and take a nap for an hour instead of eating my food. The company I found was blah, 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 supergalactic moon juice. And what happened was my neighbor introduced me to the company when they noticed I was late every day for work, and they asked me why. And I said, I can't get out of bed because I finally fall asleep at 3 o'clock. And they're saying, well, have you ever heard of this? And I learned about supergalactic moon juice. So let me tell you about supergalactic moon juice and supergalactic moon juice. And you just tell them about a little bit about the product. And that's where we introduce that. Now, the fourth component to your presentation is then the next step, which is how do they get started? What are the options? Because you're going to transition and say, well, you probably wonder how to get supergalactic moon juice. Well, let me tell you how to do that. Or you could say, well, you're probably thinking, Jen, how do I get started with this business? What do I need to do in order to have my own business? And then you transition into talking about your enrollment options. So whether you're talking about the business or the product, your company probably has packages. So pick a couple packages, a couple different things. If you're in a company that doesn't have packages that go up in size dollar-wise, you might want to create those yourself. Like I did. The company that I built had one package. Well, actually, they had a little tiny package that really didn't include any product. And then they had a product package about $150. And then so I created 2 other tiers of products, one about 400, one about 800. And it was a collection of products that I felt would be really good for somebody that was really looking to work on their health or get started in business. So I created that. But a lot of your companies, they have package A, B, C, a small, medium, and large package. And you want to talk about that. And you want to say to people, you're going to find you're an A, B, or C. So let me talk about that getting started, and how to do that. And, really, you're really saying this is your, these are your options. Even if it's a product forward presentation, you say, well, here is, this product is my lip balm. Here's this product. You can get this product that may help with sleep. A lot of people find this is, helpful. But if you really want to address at a deeper level, the reasons why maybe you're not sleeping the best is package B. And if you really want to go deep and you're all in for a total transformation in your health, which is going to include better sleep, then here's package C. I mean, that's how we talk about that, and you might even have at this point a handout to give to them, showing them the packages or whatever you want to do. Okay. So you want to have them go package A, B, or C. Typically, they all want to do package C, trust me, but they only have enough money to do package B, or the worst case scenario, package A. But if you only present to one package, they only have one option. So come up with those packages, or if your company offers them, make sure you put this into your presentation. And then lastly is your close. It's getting people actually jumping into starting versus sitting there going, wow, this is great information, Jen. I want to go home and think about it. And in the other presentation I'm going to be doing, I'm going to talk about this, but the mistakes that people make during the close. But overall, you need to have a strong call to action. And this is going to take a little time. It's going to take a few minutes, and it's going to tell them exactly what they need to do next to get started. So at this point, you're going to remind them of some of the issues that you brought in on point 1. So if you're ready to quit that second job, be home every day for dinner with your family, and start paying down that credit card debt you might have looming over your head that you've been making minimum payments on for the last 10 years. Let's get you going today. And then you hand out your, actual enrollment, like forms or however you're going to do it. The other thing, if you're doing the product, same thing. At the close, you're going to say, great. Well, are you ready to sleep better? I know that many of you are ready to do that. You're like, Jen, let's just get started. So the next step is, and you hand out your order form. And I'll talk about the digital if you're doing an online presentation in a second, but you've got to do this strong call to action. And at this point as well, You might want to tell some stories or have testimonials together at this point as well. Okay. Testimonials are really good here at the 5th spot. So again, if you're live, pass out forms, pens, you look at somebody, you need a pen, like whatever, make sure you've got that going on. And then you can tell some testimonials, or like I said, have another person or two while you're passing that stuff out. Hey, Sally, you said you had a, testimonial about the product. Do you want to share it now? So like you want to bring that here in at the end, because remember, people are thinking, can I do this? Will this work? Is this a scam? So we want to do more testimonials at this point as well. The other thing is, if you're doing an online presentation and you're live, doing a live presentation this way, there's ways that I have discovered you can make this easier, is put a QR code in your slide, like whatever you're putting on the screen. So like you could put up a slide that way, or you could, I'm trying to think, have it on a website and they could scan it with their phones, and that will take them right to the enrollment link, or to a page that you want them to go to maybe talk to you first or something like that. And then of course you can put a phone number on there so they could text you to set up a time to talk to get started, or you could put a link or the information even through the chat, so you can get them started. But don't be afraid to do the strong call to action. You have to do the strong call to action. This is how you get started. Do it now, blah, blah, blah. Let's get you going. This month's specials are XYZ. Let's get you those specials. It's in, whatever it is, let's get you started so we can, if you're starting in the business, let's get you going so that we can help you pay for your enrollment immediately, and we'll put you on that path. Like you've got to do the, this final close has got to be urgent, it's got to be clear, and it's got to be strong. Okay, so there is that. Now I want to give you oh my gosh, this is small, I'm sorry guys. Let me see if I can blow this up for you a little bit. I thought this was bigger. This is what happens when you create your notes a little too late at night. You think you can see. So there, let me go here. Maybe I can get that up to the sides. So this is just a recap of the slides. So again, the first step is open with the problems that they're facing. Okay, problems first, mistakes are second. Third thing is offer the way to solve the problem. This is your product or your business. Okay, opportunity. The fourth thing is the enrollment options. And the fifth thing is the strong close. And remind them what happens if they don't get started. Okay, if they don't take action, they're never going to fix their sleep problems. And we have found through research that sleep deprivation takes 10 years off your life or something like that. I don't know, whatever. But I'm just saying these are the things that we need to do at the end. We need to have that strong call to action. So these are the 5 main components for the presentation. Again, 15 minutes to 25 minutes. Often a live in-person presentation is about 25 minutes, half hour, just because they've come all that way. And you've got 15 minutes. They're going to be like, why is this only 15 minutes? You want to make sure they feel like they got it. But typically a live presentation from start to finish is an hour. So like they come in, they register, you get started at 6:30, you present till 7. At the end, other people might get up and tell some testimonials or whatever. We get them started, you mingle, answer questions, and they're out the door within the hour, right? So we just want that. That's why we do that. So half hour, that also gives you a little buffer time in case you go over. But when you're doing an online presentation, I'd say the sweet spot is 15 to 25 minutes, somewhere in there, 17 minutes, 23 minutes, whatever. And that will help you keep the attention of the person and then go to that point. So this is the the best way, to go about that. So anyways, I hope this is helpful. I hope that you glean some great things from this when you are crafting your own presentations. Trying to think, the rebroadcast link for this will be in the words above if you're watching this live within the first couple of days of the broadcast. If not, you will see that this is hosted on YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to this and make sure you do that. And please share this. I mean, if your team is struggling with presenting, and people, it's one of the biggest things, like the fear of presenting, and they don't know what to say, they don't know what to do. Add them to the materials that you are, wherever you're watching this, whether you're watching this live or you're watching this on the rebroadcast, make sure you share this, because this is the second skill that we have to master to be successful in network marketing. It is one of the core 3 skills. And without presenting, or even knowing how to look at a good presentation, a lot of times I don't even like presenting live anymore. I'd rather find a presentation that's already going on without me and somebody else in the company is doing it, or it's a recording of one from a webinar. But you got to have the keen eye to know if it's an effective presentation, and you've got to make sure it has these 5 things. So there's that as well. So anyways, until next time, I will catch you then. Thank you for watching and learning about your business and what you could do to make it even better, and have a wonderful rest of your day. So I'm going to adjourn, and here we go, everybody. Take care.